This is Lewis Hamilton before 2022 seven-time champion, has over 100 victories, which is a record in Formula One, multiple podiums, pole positions, and also total domination, the embodiment of the 2010s era, and the man who claims the title of the best driver in Formula One history. And this is Lewis Hamilton after 2022, where he lost twice to his own teammate, managed to achieve only 2 victories, 1 pole, and had no chance to fight for the title. The catastrophe continues this season as well. After all, having moved to Ferrari and received a fresh start for himself, Lewis Hamilton in 21 races has not been able to achieve a single finish in the top 3 and has not once stood on the podium this season, which is an anti-record in Ferrari's history. And such dismal statistics lead us to think that Lewis Hamilton has either left his prime or something is happening with him, and most likely he will never return to his previous level. This is the Slipstream channel, and in this video we will try to figure out what is connected with such a sharp decline of Lewis Hamilton in the ground effect era, and why he will most likely never win an 8th championship title. All I ask of you is to like for the effort, and also subscribe to the channel if you're interested. Then I will understand that you like this type of content and I should continue telling you about racers. Well then, the lights went out and we begin. Well, the first criterion that suggests itself most strongly is of course age. In the high-speed world of Formula One, where the difference between pole position and the middle of the pack is often measured in thousandths of a second, the physiological capabilities of an athlete play a decisive role. And at 40 years old, Lewis Hamilton is the second oldest driver on the starting grid, second only to Fernando Alonso. And despite the very high physical fitness that all Formula One drivers receive, biological aging processes inevitably affect neuromuscular reactions. Relatively recently, experts, including former Formula One champions, conducted analysis indicating that microscopic decline in reaction is very characteristic of athletes in their 5th decade, which Lewis Hamilton is, and it is precisely this small decrease in reaction that severely impacts results in qualifying sessions, which are the biggest problem for Lewis Hamilton. After all, qualifying requires the driver to work at the limit of all capabilities. And as analysts note, with age, drivers have to spend significantly more mental energy to achieve results that previously came naturally. One of those who knew how to drive fast laps better than anyone, Lewis Hamilton in the 2024 season lost to George Russell in qualifying with a score of 5:19, which is simply a catastrophic difference. And this season he is already losing to Charles Leclerc 5:16. Moreover, we often observed unfortunate eliminations from Q1 or Q2. So it is precisely Saturday sessions that are the biggest problem for Hamilton. In the race, he usually shows decent pace, sometimes even overtaking his teammate. However, due to disgusting qualifying, he simply cannot come to the result he should. But there is another aspect that, in addition to Lewis Hamilton's 40-year age, further reduces his results. This is the inability to adapt to the 2022 technical regulations, namely cars using the ground effect principle. Driving this car is fundamentally different from those that Hamilton drove in the previous generation until 2021, where he reached the peak of his power. However, racing with new cars is very difficult for him. After all, these cars have become much heavier, have greater inertia, and have a more specific driving style. Hamilton has repeatedly expressed his dissatisfaction with the current generation of cars, calling them the heaviest he has had to drive. And unlike his younger rivals, who formed their driving style under these nervous ground effect cars, Lewis Hamilton tries to drive the SF25 the way he drove the Mercedes W11. Because of this, problems arise with settings, and also ultimately the terrible results that have plagued Hamilton for the last 3 years. We constantly hear from him after races or qualifying that he has no feel for the car, and he has relied on this feeling for the last decade and a half. Therefore, such uncertainty and the inability to extract the last tenths of a second from his car is a catastrophic problem. Here we can add another factor. This is the mental health of the driver. Aldo Costa, former technical director of Ferrari and Mercedes who worked with Hamilton in his championship years, claims that Hamilton's performance is in direct correlation with his status within the team. Lewis can function at the peak of his capabilities only when he feels like the team's hero and undisputed leader around whom all engineering and operational activities revolve. Well, against the background of his recent defeats by his teammate at Mercedes and the team change, this dynamic has been shaken because Maranello historically places the Scuderia Ferrari brand above any driver. Moreover, Charles Leclerc, a graduate of the Ferrari Academy, is already deeply integrated into the team structure and enjoys the unconditional support of the Tifosian management. Hamilton's arrival did not displace Leclerc from the position of the team's emotional center. And Costa notes that if Lewis does not feel that the technical director and chief designer are working exclusively for his success, then motivation consequently begins to fall. Yes, this is the tendency by which Lewis Hamilton has acted throughout his career. And the 7-time champion cannot be changed, but that's why he's a 7-time champion. Plus to everything. When you stamp victories one after another, break all possible records, and then have only 2 Grand Prix in the next almost 4 years, this in any case hits your self-esteem. Therefore, problems pile up on Hamilton one after another, and he in any case begins to ask himself questions. Is he as good as he was before? Why has he become much slower than all his teammates? Why doesn't he come to podiums throughout the entire season, and so on? This is the psychological pit into which Hamilton has fallen, and his statements like "I am useless, I cannot help the team in any way" only confirm this. Therefore, only high results can bring Lewis Hamilton back to good psychological form. But whether these results will ever appear is a big question. The only chance for a new fresh start is the 2026 regulations. Suddenly, the new cars will be much more comfortable to drive than what we observed in the ground effect era. And then perhaps Hamilton will be able to get back in shape and start showing decent results. But if I still weakly believe that Hamilton will be able to race at a high level again, then I definitely don't believe in his next championship victory. And here's why. First, if Hamilton still manages to get in shape and starts fighting for the title, then there will be 2 factors that can greatly hinder him. The first is, of course, Ferrari, which will be very difficult to create a competitive car. At least I think so right now, against the background of all the rumors that Ferrari's engine will be only 2nd or 3rd in the pack. And so far, the main favorites are Mercedes. But even if such magic happens against which Ferrari gets the best car in the entire pack, then on Lewis Hamilton's championship path stands a much more insurmountable obstacle in the form of Charles Leclerc, a young monster who also wants to win a championship title. Leclerc is a serious opponent for any driver, even for Hamilton. He performs much better in qualifying. He is younger. And also, he is more flexible to changes in regulations. And as I already said in the middle of this video, if both Ferrari drivers fight for the title, then preference will most likely be given to Charles Leclerc, the one who has been with this team from the very beginning. And do you even believe that Ferrari will be able to build a competitive car where 2 drivers will fight for the championship at once? Personally, of course, I don't believe in such a thing. And in 26, it seems to me that Ferrari will fail again, and Hamilton will race in about the same places, perhaps in slightly better form. So let's draw a conclusion. I answered 2 questions that I asked at the beginning of the video. First, can Lewis Hamilton return to prime or at least near prime form? Answer: yes, if the 2026 regulations are convenient for him. And second, can he win an 8th title? Answer: no, because 2 insurmountable obstacles stand before his 8th championship. This is the creation of a competitive car from Ferrari, and also the fight with his rivals, both in Ferrari and outside of it. So if we can still see some individual moments from Lewis, then we will most likely never be able to witness a full season of domination and fighting for the title. Hamilton's time ended in 2021. That's where the prime one stayed. Will we ever see him again? No one knows. This was the Slipstream channel. Today we talked about Lewis Hamilton and what is happening with him after 2022. Subscribe to the channel, like. See you in new videos, and bye.